Welcome back, 9 to noon. Thanks as always for your text, 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line, and your talkbacks. If you're listening on the free iHeartRadio app, you just hit that little microphone, give us up to your best 30 seconds. A couple right off the top here. Let's play them.
PA, I have to laugh at Mike and his -6 and -9. I went to work the other day from the Iron Range, and it was -27 on my radar. So -6 is laughable. And good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning. And you're right. But I mean, I've lived here long enough. I've lived here full time since 1998 to know. So wait, I mean, I'm a quarter century into this thing. That's close to half my life. Nobody likes it. I mean, -18, -20, -20 and change. Shoot, I don't know what happened to my garage door, but now that sucker won't open. So now all of a sudden, we got to pull the latch. You got to pick it up. You can put gloves on, but of course I didn't. It's -14. Scrape the knuckles on some metal object. Push it up, back the car out, put it back down. Get home, push it up. I mean, it's. And I'm sure there are those who aid with garage doors listening right now who are more than willing to help. We're just going to go ahead and wait this weather out a little bit and see if the sensor just mysteriously fixes itself.
Yes,
but those are Western suburb problems and things with which we deal when it gets super cold.
Hey, PA Nordo, Scott here in Maple Grove, home of Malone's World's Greatest Waffle Fries.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm just really starting to get a little PO'd with Mike Florio here. First thing he posts today is saying, those of you who think that there wasn't friction between coach and team because of this extension, how did you pass your written driver's exam? Florio, it took 4 or 5 days after we got bounced from the playoffs to get this taken care of. Can you please just be happy for once?
Yes!
Thanks.
Well...
Thank you, Scott from Maple Grove. Yes, just be happy, Mike.
Friction is subjective.
Yeah.
Okay. So friction is subjective. And it's no matter how close I am to it or how separated I am from it, there are just certain questions that A, I don't care about, and B, I'm not going to ask.
Right.
So it's like, hey, so-and-so. Is it getting bad between the team? No, you just wait for it to happen because when you rattle up 34 through 3 seasons, you are as self-aware and vulnerable, positively and negatively, as Kevin O'Connell is, specifically publicly. Those people don't leave. It's just a matter of how long they stay and how much they make.
Yeah.
9 to noon doesn't care how much he makes. 9 to noon's mildly in wonderment with like how long on top of 2025 it is. Really don't care about that either. It's what I said and we shared in the open is there are a lot of good things here. 0-2 in the playoffs, 0-1 in that conference 1 seed game. I mostly am giving the coaching staff a pass in that Motown game. And you got to watch it back to know what I'm talking about. I mean, forget the fact there were 4 or 5 touchdowns, absolutely wide open, and somebody was not pressured. I mean, you got other things, too, that were just dialed up perfectly against a bad defense.
Kevin O'Connell had a winning game plan.
Thank you.
And the defense played a winning and had a winning performance.
Long enough.
Until the end of the third quarter, a pick 6 that went the wrong way, and now that didn't go the right way for the Vikings, I should say. Gibbs gets his 3rd TD, and it was over from there.
Well, and see, in the Rams game, I mean, it's nitpicky. It's fact. If the Stafford fumble, cash money, there he goes, end zone. I mean, if that's called the right way, the game could have been different. But see, that's like a nitpicking situation over the totality of, 140 plays run during the course of a game. Vikings got whooped. They got whooped by the LA Rams. And another part of the reality here is Kevin is 0-2 against his mentor. He's 1-5 against the Detroit Lions. The record against the Packers is quite good, and all of that is included in the mix.
It is.
But really, those are the details. The overarcher is who the man is, how he leads, how he handles man of 2024. The lack, like I said in the open, and I've been around this thing a long time, the lack of back talking, the lack of the bipolar nature of people just super consumed with their lot in life and, privately pointing out to people like me because they think I'm going to jump on the radio and say the exact same thing, ripping other people as to why it's bad. That never happens. That never happens at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center with any of these coaches over the course of 3 years. Likewise for the personnel people. It's just a different group, mature in different ways than some in the past. And, like I said in the open, hopefully you podcast at KFAN.com when the show's done, is when they win 9 in a row, Kevin doesn't peacock and walk around like he's Newt Rockney. But when they're losing games and there's things that are difficult to fix, like the Dobbs trick and the whole quarterback situation last year, it's not end of the world, face on the ground. I can't believe that we don't have a better situation here, and this draft sucked, and that free agent's terrible, and this guy has problems. He ain't giving me anything. It's not like that, and that's important in a world like that.
Back to the talkback machine, although I did have one last text in regard to the Florio appearance. This is Shane from Shakopee. Just wanted to let Florio know, wrestling isn't fake, Florio. It's predetermined, but more real than your favorite movies.
That's better than him saying more real than your bunk books. Because, that would have been nasty if somebody had gone down that road. But I don't know. It's like Kevin and I talk about a lot of things, but I never talk to him about this. So
about wrestling.
So therefore, when it comes to Dusty Rhodes, the American dream, or the dream of getting exactly the contract you want, in guerrilla monsoon-like fashion, it's that big and that formidable. So I ride vibes. I use whatever gift of discernment God gave me to kind of feel my way through things and know, like, hey, might want to back off here, lose that side door card key access, or push, because things are just abnormal. Things are just like the Darnold game against the Lions. But at the end of the equation is one thing I can't get past, and this comes with all respect, and I don't care where it came from or what the origin was. The timeliness of that whole trade thing that popped on a super popular pregame show by a super well-respected NFL media type, Jay Glazer, that's part of this.
Yeah.
The timing of it is part of this. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't have confirmation. Again, I'm riding a vibe here. But, all eyes are on that team and that man that night. And that morning, all of a sudden, we're going to go with that? And it's loud? Yeah, there was something behind that. I don't know if it was friction. I don't know if it was putting pressure on the ownership group. Like, I'm serious about some things we've talked about before, because I don't even know if they talked before.
Right.
But the timing of that matters. And it's water under the proverbial bridge now because everything's done. But I'm just going to put that one in my back pocket and remember it happened.
To the talkback machine.
Hey, Paul, Nordo. I'm thrilled they extended Kevin O'Connell. He's a great coach, and I think he's going to be the first guy to lead our team to a Lombardi someday.
Ooh.
However, when it comes to Kwesi, I still have questions. He's done good in free agency, but when it comes to the draft, I need to see more improvement there. And I think a lot of us can agree on that.
It's interesting, PA, that the contract talks now, it's also been reported at the same time. People are like, hey, the coach got extended. What about the GM? That they are underway. Interested to see how those pan out.
Right. And, a lot goes into that role, okay? It's more than making draft picks and closing on free agents. It's the head coach is, in essence, the identifiable leader of the football team and everything that goes with it. The general manager is above that, overseeing not only the team, but facets of the organization, personnel, stuff like that. When I say the spirit of joy and the spirit of positivity has returned to Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, and I've said that a lot over the last year and change, Kwesi's part of that. Kwesi and his staff are part of that. Now we got this laundry list of Van Ginkels and Grenards and Cashmans and all that kind of stuff. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Paved the way for the 14 wins. The drafting commentary is accurate. It's accurate. It's been, what has it been? Mediocre at best. I mean, 2022 was a flop with all due respect. Addison's a win, but I'm not one to go through each player, and be like, okay, yes, 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 no, 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 yes, no, maybe. All right, you're out. All right, you get an extension.
Right.
There's more to it with that when you have a leadership role like general manager. It's the title head coach means you are the leader of the coaches. General manager means you are managing generalities. You generally are the manager. That's a bad analogy. You're the manager of things that a lot of people don't know, what goes into it, because there's just so much more in voluminous fashion. Well, I mean, look at the salary cap. I mean, let's not forget, and I've said this 15 times before, but I think is the best way to put it. Let's not forget that we went a long time around here looking for nickels and dimes between couch cushions just to sign a backup corner.
Right.
That ain't the case. And now you're 70 to 80 under. That could even increase, and you're aggressive. The general manager gets credit for that part as much as disdain or negative analysis for some draft picks that haven't gone the right way, and I think that's very fair.
One more talk back for you here.
Hey guys, Todd from St. Louis Park here.
Hi, Todd.
Pumped about the KOC extension.
Sweet.
One thing moving forward I would love to see him put a little more weight into is our rushing attack. We had a total of 9 rushing touchdowns this season in the regular season, which was 4th to last in the league. We need a bit of a bell cow back there, which will only help McCarthy going into next season.
It's JJ
also
season.
have Hawkinson healthy going into next season, which should help a bit as well. Skol.
I like that. I like that talk back. And this has been age old since O'Connell called his first play in beating the Green Bay Packers in his very first game, and a season that Dalvin Cook had success on the ground as a running back catching passes. Madison was the bell cow backup. Madison was perceived, or somebody thought he could be the bell cow one. That wasn't the trick. So he's gone. Now you got Aaron Jones. Aaron, I think physically, I think some things physically may have slowed him down near the end of the year, but I'm in lockstep mostly with what just was shared. And when I wrote the open, there was part of it when I wrote this paragraph. I was thinking a lot of what the Todd, the talkback individual, just had to share. When I wrote, Kevin Burns with a desire to improve, and above all, like us as fans, there can be negative feelings or sadness when the season is over from a distraction factor standpoint. But think about the boss who's won a Super Bowl. I mean, it must really, really hurt to win 14 games and then get blown out in your only playoff game this year. So therefore,
by your mentor,
burning with a desire to improve and recognizing that improvement, it's, where is it? Oh, even though 9 to Noon firmly believes it's more about Jimmys and Joes than X's and O's, and we do, Kevin O'Connell knows, and I don't like speaking for people or speaking for teams, but I feel comfortable doing this. Kevin O'Connell knows he needs to continue to mature as a play caller.
Yeah.
And gain more reps and experience and ideas no matter where they are found. And that's the self-awareness part that I talk about. So, yes, a little later, whether it's from Twitter or the 64686 or emails people send me to KFAN, or just like chatting with people at my friend's son's basketball game in Golden Valley the other night. I kind of put together a little informal fan poll, little informal fan reaction to, like, what if Kevin O'Connell got a contract extension? And some of what we're talking about now, an hour from now, will be shared. But if you lack self-awareness, and it's going to be my way or the highway, and it's everybody else's fault and not mine, you're out. That's it. The team won't win, and you're out. And that's not Kevin O'Connell, and I think that plays into why he got that extension. Now, the next step as we move forward is concocting a way to get to the NFC Championship game. I mean, let's start there. I mean, we could start with, hey, win a wild card. Okay. How about we're not in the wild card round? We actually have a little time off in a home game. That'd be cool.
Ooh.
14 win teams with a ballyhooed rookie quarterback on the horizon, kicking down the barn door to play. Those are good things, assuming young JJ is quality stock. And so therefore, getting where Philadelphia and Washington are now, that's first and foremost for me. And the dichotomy of some DC domination is going to take place around the corner. But first, we got this.
The Fan wants to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword check. You might win $1,000. It might come to you in the form of a check if you use the keyword check at KFAN.com.
Snap the golf, steps up, good pocket, throws it in the middle, picked off! Jeremy Chin's got it! That's it! Celebrate like it's 1991! We're going to the NFC Championship game!
Welcome back, 9 to noon, as PA mentioned into the break. Looking at what the anatomy of an NFC Championship game participant looks like, the turnaround for the Washington Commanders. 4-win operation a year ago, and now they're at the Eagles, a team they beat earlier this season, and a chance to advance to the Super Bowl. So I was digging into it yesterday and just trying to find, this isn't the first time that teams have had significant turnarounds. You think about the 98 Rams, and it's Tony Banks clomping around. Well, suddenly Kurt Warner comes off the bench. They trade for Marshall Faulk. They draft Torrey Holt, and it's the greatest show on turf. The 2018 Niners were 4-12. They go 13-3 with a healthy Jimmy G. They go to the Super Bowl. Emmanuel Sanders, wide open, couldn't hit on it. They couldn't close on it. So there have been turnarounds, but to what extent in the history of the NFL? Well, the Commanders have to be on the front side, not only from a recency standpoint, but maybe an all-time standpoint in the amount of changes that they have gone through to get to where they are today. And it's crazy to look at it, frankly, the amount of change. So we'll start here. July 2023, ding dong, the witch is dead. Daniel Snyder, who appears to be one of the bigger losers in all of sports ownership, he's a billionaire, so if you only care about money, I guess he's winning, but not exactly from a character standpoint, the most beloved owner ever in professional sports. Josh Harris and 20 of his buddies, including Magic Johnson, buy the Commanders for $6 billion, and they send Daniel Snyder packing. So that's July 2023. That's just like 18 months ago. So start here. I mean, picture that dark cloud leaving Landover, Maryland. All the scandal, all the junk going around for years. You know, probably a lot less of it public even than some of the nasty stuff that we heard. But they're able to wash their hands of it and move on. So Ron Rivera is the coach. He started in 2020. He was Snyder's answer, I think, to moving on from the Bruce Allen regime. Mm-hmm. They almost won a playoff game, by the way, in 2020. Taylor Heineke, a 7-9 team. It was Scott Turner, we know that name, and Jack Del Rio doing the coordinating. Now, I like Ron a lot. Ron Rivera, I actually got to meet with him and talk with him in Army-Navy just a month ago. He's awesome, but his teams weren't that great, and they had to fire Del Rio at some point. Sam Howell is starting games for them. The bit wasn't working. And remember, PA, they were at one point supposed to have the best defensive front in the NFL. They had Montez Sweat. They had Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, that duo inside, and they drafted Chase Young. Well, that didn't work out well. But Harris and the new group, they let 2023 play out. They do trade Montez Sweat to the Bears for a second-round pick. They go 4-13. Everyone gets canned. The general manager, his name is Martin Mayhew. He's actually still with the organization. Former player, won a ring with the Skins in 91. He's now going to be the senior personnel guy to support the new general manager. His name is Adam Peters. Well, who is Adam Peters, you ask? Well, he's been the assistant GM and the VP personnel guy with John Lynch and Shanny out west since 2017. Prior to that, he scouted for Belichick and the Pats 20 years ago. Then he was with Elway during the Peyton Manning years. So he's got 2 rings from the Pats, and he's got 1 in 15 with the Bronx. So Adam Peters rolls in. Martin Mayhew, no longer GM. That's Adam Peters' job, but Mayhew sticks around to show Peters the ropes. And Peters rolls in. He hires Dan Quinn, I believe, February of 2024. So just less than a year ago. So far in 6 months, we have an ownership change. We got a new GM, a new coach, and sewage pipes bursting at FedEx, which is now named Northwest Stadium. So all kinds of change happening out in Maryland.
Is that new?
Yeah, it's Northwest Stadium now. I think it started in 2024, no longer FedEx.
Okay.
So into the draft of 2024, they traded Sam Howell plus a 4th and a 6th to get a 3rd and a 5th from Seattle in the spring. But in 23, they moved Sweat for a 2nd-round pick, and they traded Chase Young for a 3rd to the Niners. So that was before the new regime even got there, those two trades. So props to Mayhew and company. And Rivera's like, oh, I'm really just playing out the string here, aren't I? So Dan Quinn's in here. Check this out, PA. As I was digging into this yesterday, they signed 26 free agents into the 2024 season. That was a league high. 26 brand new bodies in the mix. And then just before the season in August, they traded just Jahan Dotson away to, I believe, the Eagles.
The Eagles.
Just before the bit. So they got another pick coming in 2025 as well.
It was like 3 days before the Vikings played there.
Exactly. So the anatomy of a team that went from 4-13 to 12-5 and are now in an NFC title game. Here's what it looks like. On the offensive line, they brought in Tyler Biadasz from at center from Dallas. They brought in Nick Allegretti, a guard from Kansas City. Just a year before in 2023, by the way, they got their tackle Andrew Wiley from the Chiefs as well. I wonder what that was. They're just like, hey, these champs keep winning, and these are the guys that protect Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. I'd like that.
And we're going to take the center from a division rival and jack with them.
Perfect.
And we're going to trade a guy we don't like for reasons they don't know to another division rival and let them deal with him. Wow, they're playing fast over there.
Hell yeah, they are. And then they kicked Sam Cosmi from tackle to guard. And then they drafted their left tackle, Brandon Coleman, in the 3rd round this year.
Wow.
So it's Coleman, it's Cosmi, it's Allegretti, it's Wiley, it's Biadasz. Well, last year they had Charles Leno Jr. as their starting left tackle. They had Sadiq Charles as their left guard. He's now a backup. Nick Gates, I believe, their right guard. He gone. And then on top of that, they add Austin Eckler at the running back spot. They add Jeremy McNichols, who's been on like 9 teams. And I think there's a Niners connection with him and Peters. They work behind Brian Robinson, their 2022 3rd rounder. So Antonio Gibson goes bye-bye.
Who everybody drafts in fantasy thinking it's Bijan Robinson. And then they go to watch Bijan. They're like, what happened? How come I'm not getting any points? Because you took Brian.
How is Wayne Webb doing?
Oh, stop, man. That's great. That's great.
Okay, to the wideouts. McLaurin's a stud. De'Ami Brown, 2021 3rd rounder, finally gets an opportunity.
Is that who he is? De'Ami or whatever Brown?
De'Ami Brown.
2020. So he's been with the Covenant since 2021?
Yeah, absolutely.
I honestly, I'd never heard of him until last week.
Well, it's because Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson were supposed to be that duo with McLaurin to make it that 3-piece, 3-deep Burger King poster dominant force, and it didn't work out. You know who is working out? Olamide Zaccheaus and Noah Brown. I mean, do you want to talk about a measured spending spree? I'm not even done with the offense.
And Jamison Crowder, who might even have been in the Covenant before.
Correct. So they have those guys at the wide receiver spots. They add Zach Ertz, who is now the starting tight end. John Bates was a 4th rounder. He moves to a backup. Ben Sinnott, he was a 2nd-round rookie. And then some cat named Colson Yankoff. It's an interesting name. Logan Thomas.
Might be
no
Yankoff.
Well, you spell it that way. I'm going to say it that way.
I know.
Okay.
But see, that's why your favorite, like when we watch Deadliest Catch together at your house in Chaska, that's why you always want to assume the role of the seaman.
9 to noon.
To the quarterback spot, of course, Mariota is new to the mix on the cheap. And we know, as I mentioned, they trade away Sam Howell to the Seahawks. Brissett goes elsewhere. And then they draft Jaden Daniels with the 2nd overall pick. So all those new faces, half their O-line's different. New tight end, new running back stable. The wide receiving core looks different. It's insane. And that's just half of the ball.
It's the dichotomy of DC domination is what it is.
It's so crazy what these guys did in just one offseason. New coach, new GM, new ownership, new name to the stadium, new freaking offense, new QB, and here's the defense. So Dorrance Armstrong, he's new. He comes from the Cowboys. Clelin Ferrell, you've mentioned him a couple of times. 1 year with the Niners, I believe last season after a tough start to his career with Vegas. So Clelin Ferrell is new. How about Dante Fowler? He came from the Cowboys. Ooh, they're just poaching division rival players here.
I love this.
And, Dante Fowler, long removed from his Jacksonville days, ultimately with the Rams and Falcons before the Cowboys. So Dante Fowler, Armstrong, Ferrell, all new. They still have Payne and Allen. They've made sure to keep that duo on the inside. But then I believe they flipped the second-round pick that they got for Montez Sweat. Jerzon Newton. So now they got another backup, and he's a rookie, and he's gotten a fair amount of run. I think he's still in a backup role. We're not talking about a prominent stud star here, but he's contributing. So they get rid of Chase, they get rid of Sweat, they add Johnny Newton, and they add a few free agents. Linebackers, how about this? The whole linebacking group is gone. They bring in Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner. So Jamin Davis and Cody Barton, their starters last year, they're both gone.
Yeah.
Nick Bellore is a backup and a special teamer. And everybody, and that's it. Everybody else is gone in that group. So
Bobby Wagner is right at the end. His previous run in Seattle, it looked like it was the end.
Correct.
Now my man's all over the field playing every single play, manning the nickel and dime and just killing people.
Once I get to the conclusion of this, it'll be one of those things where it's like, oh, I get it. So new linebackers in the mix. To their secondary, Jeremy Chin. Well, they needed to pair Louvu with you have to, right? The two players other than Brian Burns on the Carolina Kitties defense that you would ever want in the last half decade.
Yep.
Well, Washington went out and got both of them.
Yep.
And Quan Martin was elevated in his second year to start. Not familiar with him, to be honest with you, but they bring in Noah Igbenogany from Dallas. They traded in season for Marshawn Lattimore.
That was big.
And I think that was big because they ended up having to waive their first-round pick from last year, Emmanuel Forbes, because apparently he's just awful. And I just haven't seen a bunch of them. But Emmanuel Forbes, in season, they get rid of him.
And Lattimore was hurt.
Lattimore was hurt.
Yeah, Lattimore missed a bunch of time. And
I don't even think he made his debut until he had been there for several weeks.
I'd forgotten he was on the team. My man had gold cleats on Saturday night. And I'm like, and the reason I say that is because I'm like, who's 23 with gold cleats? Because they're never throwing at him.
No.
And I watched back about 15 of the pass plays. So maybe they threw it in more. But they never went at Marshawn. Goff and crew never went at Marshawn Lattimore on Saturday night. That was impressive.
So they get rid of their first-round pick from last year, which would have been a difficult decision to make, but they did.
Yep.
Kendall Fuller is gone. Cameron Curl left for the Rams. Derek Forrest, no idea who he is. He isn't in the mix. And Gopher Love, Benjamin St. Juste, is now in a backup role. So the secondary, again, entirely different than what it was a year ago.
Wow. And entirely different and working.
And working well. And they've only gotten better. That's that chemistry piece, I think, for them. Over the course of the season, they've been ramping up. And when we talked about the Rams were ramping up. Sadly, maybe in some ways for our favorite team, were we ramping up? That's a question for us to ask ourselves now in the offseason. But, and they drafted Christian McCaffrey's younger brother, Luke, as a receiver and a returner. But finally, 4 different dudes have kicked for this team this year. I think it was Cade York kicks on opening day. Then it was Austin Siebert. And then it was Zane Gonzalez.
Yeah.
But then Zane couldn't go, so they bring in Greg Joseph for a game in December.
He got hurt.
And then it went back to Zane Gonzalez. So that was a trip. In the end, the 26 free agents, the completely reshaped roster, a new coach, a new GM, a new naming rights to the stadium, all jokes aside, et cetera. They need a new facility, there's no doubt. But is it sustainable? Because that's insanity. And they're 6-point dogs at the Eagles. They might win, they might lose. They showed they could beat the Eagles earlier this year, and the kid QB just doesn't care what the moment or the stage is. He's going to be there and be game and be ready no matter what.
Just in case you got an appearance or you're spotting up over the weekend, as you are so inclined to do. Look, I think the game Washington beat Philly I think Hurts left really early, and it was Kenny Pickett terrorism for a majority of the game.
Oh, it was Kenny Pickett. Was that the concussion game?
I might be wrong.
I think you might actually be right. I'm not.
Keep that in mind. Then you just won Mad Producer and Mad Hatters, our private fantasy league, with Saquon Barkley. So let's not forget who brung you to the dance, my man.
No, I understand. But I got a nibble of that plus 350 last week. I think it's only plus 230 this week, but I might have to try it again.
Mm-hmm.
Is it sustainable? So SpotTrack/Spotrac, they have 30 free agents that they got to figure out after this season. So they have more people potentially leaving even than the Vikings do.
But
no big name guys.
But
$90 million in cap space.
But
they also, other than a 4th-round pick, have all of their draft picks, including multiple 7s.
And
Rick Spielman would be proud. And they got their quarterback of the future figured out.
There you go.
I know, right?
It's completely.
It's
ridiculous.
I forgot to look through it yesterday, and I said I would. Is how many times has somebody had the 2nd overall pick in the draft and made it to the conference championship game? I mean, that right there is abnormality at its finest. That covenant claps from me to you for that dichotomy of a DC domination.
Well, I couldn't help it. It was
fascinating.
Yeah, I was looking at it last night, and it just kept getting more interesting and more somewhat astonishing in many ways how they were able to piece this thing together. I mean, the Colts made it, suck for luck year, right? They made it to, and they made it to the playoffs, I believe. I don't know if they ever made it. How far they got in the postseason with Andrew Luck.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, my goodness, the way that they've been able to turn this thing around in such short order, and there's a reason and a rhyme to every action that you can see on this roster. It will need to be different. Like, you can't just put Austin Eckler out there for the next 3-4 years. The Jeremy McNichols trick is not going to be a reasonable answer or option outside of Brian Robinson. You mentioned it, Bobby Wagner, right? Like, they're going to have to make a lot of those changes. They have all the draft capital and all the financial flexibility they need because the most important dude on the field, that's in the bag. That's in your pocket. That's all figured out. Terrific work by Adam Peters and the new ownership group of the Commanders.
To get all of that, what you just shared in the dichotomy, to get all of that to mesh, the rookie, Jaden Daniels, I didn't watch all the games, haven't watched all the snaps, and won't. There had to have been a time. Yeah, there was a time. Second half of the season, he fell off. It's like statistically and with some interceptions and stuff, my man fell off and then pushed through to be where he is now. That's hard. That's very, very hard. Cliff Kingsbury gets a lot of credit for that. Also, to take the components to the Maryland Moving Company and replace so many and use a rookie left tackle from the 3rd round, I think you said, and to make that work. And then you lose your right guards, one of your better offensive linemen. In the Lions game, replacement guy comes in, and that works. And you make the Lattimore move, you give up a lot, you can't find him because he's hurt, then he plays, and now they're not throwing at him. And through all of that, you identify two players, in Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, and you make them cornerstones.
Right.
You're the cornerstones, not only to the defense, but to the team, and that empowers them. And Jonathan Allen was awesome the other night against the Lions. Even though he didn't close on a lot of it, he disrupted everything. Thank you for the dichotomy, because DC does have some domination to it. I hope they win this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. News du Nord is next, followed by Mick Tockett, followed by an informal fan pulse involving Kevin O'Connell in about an hour from now, a little less. If you missed Chris Finch in the open, you'll hear it back about 45 minutes from now. We enjoyed the chat. It's 9 to noon. Hey, I have a quick News du Nord nugget for you.
Ooh.
I don't know if you have Ben Johnson to the Bears in the mix or not, but there's an aside that popped up yesterday. Maybe you've seen it. And this is from a reliable source that I follow on Twitter.
Is it about somebody coming with him?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's about in a now deleted, it plays off Dan Miller yesterday, their Vox, responding on Twitter to fans who were increasingly getting frustrated that Ben Johnson left and went to a division rival, but would be like there's more to it. But we didn't get to the more to it. Florio doubled down on it a little bit this morning. Then I see this. In a now deleted video from the Chicago Bears, all right, Ben Johnson walks into the facility and does a motivational speech.
Okay.
Well, there was part of it that was deleted where, assumedly, he said, quote, "I told you I was going to be here sooner rather than later," end quote. Many Detroit fans believe Johnson was mentally in Chicago and didn't care if Detroit won versus Washington. Okay, now, the latter, the didn't care part, no, he cares.
Yeah.
But it plays off the CDT we talked about last week and earlier this week, closed door terrorism. When those doors are closed for hours, and now you learn, well, our offensive coordinator has jumped ship and gone to Chicago. Oh, he's going to bring the offensive line coach with him, and our defensive line coach is going to become the defensive coordinator in New England. And, oh, by the way, our defensive coordinator is not up for one. He's going to interview for 3, but he's up for 2 jobs. That closed-door terrorism at Allen Park in Michigan up to that game, wow. I mean, I can't say it didn't play a factor in the game. I mean, that's a lot.
No, that's a lot going on. And that's actually where I was going to start, is not just that Ben was there, but let's start to think about the potential fallout and what is ahead for Dan Campbell in terms of the potential coaching changes. Ben Johnson is gone. Hank Fraley, was he O-line or tight ends with the Kitties?
Hank Fraley, O-line.
So now it sounds like, will be the offensive coordinator, and they have a terrific connection. Ben Johnson and Hank Fraley do.
Yeah, I don't know Ben. I know Hank very well. Hank was here as the offensive line coach with Norv Turner.
Yeah.
Hank is as honest as the day is long.
Well, he was good to us too. He joined the show a couple of times. Real salt of the earth type of guy. Yeah.
So I can't. I mean. Anyway, go ahead.
No, but now if Aaron Glenn, certainly if he's going to be with the Jets. You mentioned D-line coach and all of those things. The path forward for Dan Campbell is certainly something. And when we were talking, hey, who suffers more? The Vikings defense if Brian Flores is gone, or the offense if Ben Johnson is gone? Well, now that's kind of expanded beyond that. How much is Dan Campbell affected with so many new faces that he's going to have to bring in? It's kind of nutty in that regard.
Yes.
You know what struck me as well is, how about Josh McDaniels? I don't know what he's been doing, living in obscurity since his short coaching tenure with the Las Vegas Raiders ended unceremoniously. Antonio Pierce takes over, then he gets the one and done. Pierce does in 2024. How about Josh McDaniels returning to the franchise for not a second time, a third time, PA,
right,
where he has gone out of the nest. It didn't work out. Came groveling back, left the nest again, didn't work out, chilled for 18 months this time around.
And probably got paid.
And contracts guaranteed, as you were mentioned, from the coaching standpoint. And now he's back. Mike Vrabel is making Josh McDaniels his offensive coordinator as they try to figure out how good Drake May can be. That's just crazy news.
Well, there are so many different ways to go with, copyright. Hartman and Barrero back in the day with the Country Club and the Timberwolves.
Well, that's not I don't think that's a bad direction to go in some respects, because I think there are.
Well, it's part of it.
We've heard it from fans for many years, the ideas of nepotism and, how difficult it is for newer people to find their way up the ranks.
Yeah.
And I think over the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of new first-time head coaches. It's kind of been exciting. It's been invigorating and really put some life into the league. That's terrific. But we were joking about it yesterday, talking about like Jerry Jones, like he got a Schottenheimer interviewing for a job. There's still a McCarthy out there. You think about some of these names, and it's not that they didn't earn the opportunity and the equity that they put into the league, But when you start hearing like Josh McDaniels, I forgot he existed.
Yeah.
And maybe is there a young offensive coordinator or a young QB coach or somebody that isn't getting an opportunity? And when you start hearing guys for the second and third name, you were talking about Matt Patricia with Miller yesterday, Lions Vox. Like, you just start hearing that, it's like, my goodness, can we just move on?
Well, they had their special teams coach, something Judge, maybe Joe Judge.
Joe Judge.
Okay.
He went down to the Giants, right?
Right. But when he came back to New England, he's known for his special teams wherewithal.
Right.
I think Belichick made him offensive coordinator, or he made him some high position he'd never done.
Yeah.
Because that's just that's how it works. Let's put it this way: there are a couple of names of younger coaches on the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff who are they're ballyhooed. Grant Udinski, who is an offensive right-hand man for Kevin O'Connell and the offensive staff. He's interviewed twice to become the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator. So, like, a lot of head coaching stuff going on, but Grant, who's young and new to the game, or relatively new, that him, and we mentioned Ryan Cordell, the director of the dispute, the game manager when it comes to the challenges and stuff like that. He's very good at what he does. Also very good as an offensive mind assisting O'Connell. If you are Messrs. Udinski and or Cordell, and the New England Patriots call for any type of job, don't answer the phone. Because you're going to think you have a chance, and then all of a sudden Steven Belichick rolls in from some university,
licking his lips,
and gets 18 times more than they offered you, and he's running the team. So either that, or it's like I don't know, what's Bill Parcells doing these days? You think he can come over here with Dom Capers, and maybe he and Sleepy Dom can consult, and then we just pay them?
Well, we talked to, you mentioned Paul Gunther. What a name there, right? And even our guy Zim. Even our guy Zim and the connection to the Cowboys. Were there any other potential opportunities? Is there a young D-line coach that's fresh and with it and in and ready to, potentially blossom into a career? They bring Zim in, and now,
yeah.
I mean, if that Deion Sanders thing ever was to happen,
yeah,
I think Zimmer stays as the defensive coordinator, and I don't think that it's even a question. And then you got Pat Shurmur as your new OC.
Wow.
And you're running.
Well, no, Pat's the offensive coordinator for the Colorado Buffaloes.
So if Deion goes, Shurmur's going with him?
No,
you don't
he
think
wants
so?
to be the head coach of Colorado. I mean, that's how this whole thing works. Go, Deion. And
best of luck.
And take Travis, and you got Shador and all these speedsters. But Paul Gunther, I don't know if I've told you this. I love Paul, super wonderful guy. But he was with the Dallas Cowboys.
What?
Yes. I saw. It's like one game, we're on the road, I'm chilling or whatever, waiting to interview O'Connell or something. The Cowboys are on TV. And I see Paul Gunther sitting next to Micah Parsons with his arm around him.
He's the run game coordinator.
There you go.
He's the defensive run game coordinator.
I didn't know, but I saw him. I'm like, more things change, the more they stay the same. It's just the ways and means become rearranged.
What was it the late Chris Biggie Wallace used to say, giving ends to my friends and it feels stupendous.
Yeah, now before somebody from the previous regime listens and contorts what I just said, let's do FIGA, Fairness and Gunther Act. Fantastic human being.
Yeah.
Spent some time at Marco Island with him. Ran into him on a vacation. Have spent time at Canterbury with him. I love the guy, and he's very good at what he does. So, Paulie, that's why we laid that out on the podcast, in case one of these fools wants to tell you a different story, and then you don't happen to hear the podcast, and then we're not friends anymore. Hey, no. That's not going to happen with this one.
Well, no, again, we've been together long enough now, whether it's Fraley, that's why I mentioned that, is I've known positive things. Gunther, similarly in the mix as well. So, yes, no, absolutely. Wolves tonight, they're actually 3-point favorites, as I was telling you off air during the break, trying to figure out why that is. Tough place to play. They did beat the Mavs in Dallas on Christmas, so we understand that. But I know no Luka, but Kyrie's going to be playing, and that's a tough matchup. PJ Washington's going to go. Probably he's going to shoot 30% from beyond the arc and kill Khan's LFL field goal percentage. But you got the Wolves, and we're going to replay. You had Chris Finch on. We're going to play that during the final hour. I do want to get to this though before we go to break. Mm-hmm. Is one in a row off a buzzer beater and all of that. There was positivity, and everyone's loving it. Well, now you got to go down and beat a conference rival, and you know what? You did it.
Minnesota will have the ball, and they will get a win in Iowa City.
Right on.
For the first time since 2015.
How about that?
And it'll be 2 straight
8-point dogs.
Wins. They throw it toward half court, caught by Freeman of Iowa. He'll throw a half quarter, no good. And Minnesota gets a road win, 72-67.
Congratulations to the Fighting Parker Foxes. They do indeed get their second Big Ten win, second in a row. Dawson Garcia led everybody with 20, but it was Femi, and it's Odakale, I think is how you pronounce it. He had 18. Parker, just 15 minutes, but productive. Had a couple of boards, a big block, a swat, and 6 points for him. And he was 4 or 5 at the line. So we like seeing that. He was 80% at the line yesterday. We love that for Parker. So the Minnesota Golden Gophers hoops team, they do indeed beat Iowa. And next up for them, this is going to be a fun one, actually. I wonder if they've even ever been here. 15th ranked Oregon is going to be at the Barn in 3 days. Sweet. So Oregon, the new Big Ten look and all of that, the Ducks are here on Saturday.
Wild out of action tonight. They play the Utah bit tomorrow. We have a Vox in the Box at Tria tomorrow, which we'll start the show with Heinz O. Start the show with Heinz O, head coach of the Minnesota Wild. Bob Motzko, he'll be in the second segment, coach of the Gophers hockey team. It's 2 versus 3, Michigan State and Mr. Motzko's team this weekend in East Lansing. And also tomorrow, we're going to talk about Faith and Family Night at XL Energy Center.
Oh, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Final hour today. Yeah. It is a Wild Wednesday. I have a pair of tickets that will include passes to the Faith and Family Night tomorrow at XL Energy. Thank you for saying that because I got to pump that up. Final hour, I'm giving away some tickets.
Mick Tockett around the corner on KFAN.